This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Yes, I dreamed it, and Paramount Pictures paid me $9,000 to fulfill that dream. I'm going to tell you that story today, and I got reunited with that story. I'm writing a book about my life as a cop by day and a comedian by night, and I was writing down the Hollywood Palladium story, which had been a dream of mine to perform, and I'm going to tell you that story, and you can enjoy that story for the sake of the story, but the purpose for me doing it on this podcast and telling that story is I want to encourage someone. Someone out there needs encouragement to follow your dreams. Follow your dreams no matter where that might take you, whether it takes you across the country, down the street, or around the world. Follow your dreams. The price of regret is too much. And I want to encourage anybody to follow their dreams, regardless of their age, because when I did it, it was not easy. I had had a dream from high school, going to Monterey Community College, and I was taking criminal justice, and I wanted a full-time job with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department in rural upstate New York to become a full-time deputy sheriff. Now, in 1978, at age 21, I realized that dream. I became a full-time deputy sheriff with Livingston County in little upstate New York. Now, in the few years that followed, through movies, reading books, I developed other dreams of I wanted to work for a large metropolitan police agency. And so I was applying to New York City. I was applying to Houston, Texas, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the LAPD, and the LA Sheriff's Department. Now, I got all these images in my head through movies, books, and I was reading a police magazine. And I actually saw an ad in that police magazine, full-page ad, ride the strip, we pay the gas. Call 1-800-LASD, LA Sheriff's Department, and apply today. So I was applying all over, and that was one of the ads that I answered and got an application sent to me. Now, everything was going fine with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department. I had a great career going. Now I was in my 5th year, but I had these dreams in my head. So now going to another dream that I also had in 1982, if you can imagine this. 79, 80, 81, 82 is my 4th year with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department. Of course, I already, from high school performing stand-up comedy, I also had the entertainment industry in the back of my head, becoming a stand-up comedian, even though I didn't know what that was going to mean because there were no comedy clubs in Livingston County. I don't even know if there was any in Rochester, New York. But no one was leading me on that path. It was in my own head through watching comedians on television. But I bought a DVD movie of Live on the Sunstrip. I bought a DVD of a comedy special called Live on the Sunset Strip with Richard Pryor. And I thought he was just a genius. He was hilarious. And for some reason, I became obsessed also with where did he do this? I just love the look at that stage, the look of the stage and the curtain and the scene of the crowd as he performed. And so I looked it up and I saw that it was filmed at the Hollywood Palladium in Hollywood, California. And I got it in my head. This is 1982. I had no indication that I would ever be moving to Los Angeles or become a full-time comedian or at least a touring comedian or someone who was getting paid to do stand-up comedy. I'm in upstate New York, Livingston County. I have my DVD, Live on the Sunset Strip, and I got it in my head. Where was this performed? At the Hollywood Palladium. And I said to myself, in my head and out loud, I want to perform someday at the Hollywood Palladium like Richard Pryor did. I want to film a special just like this. There was no reason to believe that that could ever happen. I had no evidence to indicate that I could ever do that. But I did put that in my head, and I thought about it often. And I would watch that DVD over and over again, and I would just look at that stage. and think, wow, I'm going to perform on that stage. And I was putting that in my subconscious mind. And maybe you've experienced things where you put images, thoughts, ideas, goals in your mind with strong emotion behind them. And for some reason, things start to happen, whether it's the universe, your subconscious mind, or as I would say, God makes things happen. And we, down the road, we think, what a coincidence that this happened. And that dream that I put in my head so long ago came to be, even though we didn't know how that would happen. We just knew what we wanted. It was a dominating thought in our mind, which triggered our brain, the universe, God, to start making things happen. So I put that in my mind in 1982. Now, 1982, I also went to New York City, and I took the New York City police test, and I was applying at Dallas, like I said, in Houston. But then I got called by the LA Sheriff's Department to come out for an interview. I went out, and at the time, LA sheriffs, they would test out-of-staters, and almost all the testing was done in 4 days. So you did the written, physical agility, the background would start, and also you did a oral interview. And so I got that all done in 4 days. And then while I was out in LA, I visited my aunt and uncle in Santa Monica. And then I went home to continue my work as a deputy sheriff for Livingston County. And then a few months later, 4 or 5 months later, I got a call from the LA Sheriff's Department. Hey, you've passed the background so far, and you can either go forward with the background, which means you might get hired, and then you would have to take a polygraph. But if you don't pass the polygraph, then you would be discontinued. Or you can come out, take the polygraph, and then wait to see if you're hired and you have everything done. So I decided to do that. And there's no way I was leaving my job full-time with Livingston County and taking my job in LA without knowing that for sure I had the job. So I flew out, took the polygraph, and I passed the polygraph exam. And so a few months later, I got the call. Matter of fact, it was December 21st. If you can imagine, 4 days before Christmas, I get the call. Hey, this is the LA Sheriff's Department Personnel Bureau. I'm Sergeant so-and-so. Do you still want the job? I had no indication that they would be offering me the job in a letter or anything else. Just this phone call that I happened to answer in the middle of the day. And part of me, in a split second, didn't even know what to say. But, I thought of, wait a minute. But I said, yes, of course I want the job. And they said, okay, we'll be here at 211 West Temple Street in Los Angeles on December 21st. I know what they asked me. They asked me, how much time do you need to get ready? I said, I need a couple weeks. And so they gave me the date of December 21st. So this must have been November. And they said, be here December 21st, 1983 is when it was. And so I'm thinking the academy started then, but it didn't. It actually started January 17th. So I really didn't have to be there on the 21st of December, 4 days before Christmas. But that's the way it was put to me, and I said yes. Now, I have to tell you, this is why I want to encourage anybody to follow their dreams, because your family, friends, although my mom and dad were very encouraging, always, hey, we'll miss you, but you should follow your dream of whatever you want to do. We support you 100%. Now, my fellow deputy sheriffs and supervisors, detectives, even the sheriff, well, the sheriff himself was very encouraging. He said, listen, I've been out to L.A. To me, that's the best department in the country. I had gone out there, and I had gone to Los Angeles, and I met with the sheriff, and that is the best organization in the country as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to give you time off the test, and if you don't make it, you always have a job back here. So he was very encouraging. But now family, friends, fellow workers, now you have to remember that people are going to tell you out of love their fears, because they don't have your dreams in their head. So all they know is, hey, do you even know where you're going to live? I mean, how are you? Why you have a good job here? You've been here 5 years. Why would you want to leave now? You have a great career going. What about your family, your mom, your dad, your close friends, and you have ties here? This is what people are going to say to you because they don't know your dreams, and they're saying this, out of love and care for you. They're worried about you, right? You're going to New York. You're going to pursue your Broadway dreams. Where are you going to live? How are you going to make a living? I mean, you have a job here. people are going to, it'll seem like they're discouraging you, but it's out of love, and you have to learn how to put that out of your head and follow where you're going, because it's very persuasive to you, because when you're in a comfortable spot, I mean, unless I was in a comfortable spot. So when you're in a comfortable spot, it's so easily to be content with your current circumstances, even though the big dream is calling and you have these, you're really driven to these ideas and dreams in your head, and you want to take action on them. Being content with your job surrounding and your comfortableness will lead you to put that away, because it's the unknown, and we're so much more comfortable with the known. So I had to kind of quiet those voices the best I could and go through with it. Now I encourage people to follow their dreams, because the price of regret will be too much. And it's better to follow a dream and find out that path, stopped, or you went in a different direction. That's okay. But to have not ever tried at all is going to be the big regret that it's going to be hard to live with. So follow that dream. So I tell you this because it wasn't easy for me to make those steps with these voices in my head of, hey, wait, what are you doing? Do you even know what it's like out there? I mean, you're going to be, it's not, there's gangs and shootings. And although I used to joke with a friend of mine that I worked with, Larry Teddemore, professional photographer now, but my fellow deputy sheriff, and I used to tell him, I go, Larry, I would rather go out to LA and die of a gunshot than die of boredom here. Because I was in a rural sheriff's department in upstate New York, and not a lot happened. So I had it in my head to follow this dream. I said, yes, I will be there. And it just wasn't really easy. I remember, as I said, my parents, very encouraging, always behind me 100%. But of course, they said, we'll be sad, but, you have to do what you got to do, and you should live your own life. And so, and my grandmother was very encouraging. She was one of my big encouragers. She said, oh, you're going to love California. You are just going to love it. She lived there. My mom was born in San Diego. You're going to love California. It is so great. And believe me, in the 80s, it was great. In the 90s, it still was great. But so I had these encouraged, and my final scene, because my final friends that I visited before I took off on my first leg of my journey, because I was driving out to Los Angeles, everything I owned was in the back seat of my Chevy Impala. And so I remember being at the kitchen table with them, saying my goodbyes, 4 or 5 very close friends. And they gave me a gift. It was a nice keychain, and it said, it was engraved, "Don't forget us." And then I just remember driving away from their house. And as I backed out of the driveway and then drove down the road, I looked at my rearview mirror, and they're all standing there waving. I have to tell you, that is so hard. Tears coming down for the next probably 50 miles. And it was very hard. So it's very hard, believe me, but you will never, never regret going after your dreams wherever it takes you. And when I look back now and I think about all that occurred and what it meant to friends and family for me to share the things that I was going through, obviously, we're in a free country. 4 or 5 hours, I'm flying, I'm back in New York, sharing what I'm doing, all the growing that I'm doing, everything that I'm learning, going through the LA Sheriff's Academy, having all these experiences. And so never regretted for a minute making that decision. But I encourage you to follow your dreams, because it's not always easy when it might entail making a big move across the country. So 1982 was the dream, the Hollywood Palladium in the head. Where is this stage? I want to be performing on that stage. And so while I'm in LA, we fast forward. I make it out of the academy. I work in custody for 3 years, go to patrol in South Central Los Angeles, bordering Compton, California. Gang shootings, everything's crazy. And then I get transferred to a slower station, and I get transferred to a slower station, and then I end up bad attitude, start seeking a job as a real estate agent, get exposed to personal growth, personal development, self-improvement, going to a Tony Robbins seminar, deciding to pursue my comedy career again, and going to the Big Bear Summit that Judy Carter had, and then I'm learning that I can produce my own shows, and I produce a big show at the Roxy on Sunset. The Roxy on Sunset, and the show goes great. I actually make a few bucks, and then one day I'm driving down through Hollywood, and I drive by the Hollywood Palladium. There's the Hollywood Palladium. I really hadn't revisited that dream of performing there until after I did my show at the Roxy on Sunset. And I said, I just produced my own show at an iconic venue on Sunset Boulevard on the Strip in Hollywood. And now I'm driving past the Hollywood Palladium, and I'm remembering the DVD Live on the Sunset Strip, Richard Pryor, my dream that I put as a dominating thought in my head in 1982. Now, listen, it's 1998. So we're 16 years later, I'm driving by the Hollywood Palladium. Now I'm emboldened by my success with Roxy on the Sunset. So I have no problem calling the Hollywood Palladium. Hey, who's the person that I talk about renting this venue? And so I get a guy, and he says, come on in for a meeting, and I meet him, and luckily for me, the guy, one of 12 owners for the Hollywood Palladium, this guy that I met happened to be a reserve police officer for Culver City PD. So we instantly had a bond. So he told me, listen, you can rent this midweek for $5,500, $5,500. And it just gets you four walls, what they call in the entertainment venue business. Four walls just means you're going to get the theater. You're going to have to provide your own spotlights, your own sound system. If you're going to film, you got to do everything yourself. You're getting the four walls for the $5,500, and then you have to supply a $2 million insurance policy for the night. And you also have to pay, it was like $400 or $500 for a security firm to work on that night for the 5 hours that I'm going to have the Hollywood Palladium as my venue for the night. Now, after the Roxy, I had made $3,000-$4,000, so, and I had money saved, so the money was not scared money. In other words, I could pay the $5,500 to rent the Hollywood Palladium, and it wasn't, if I never made a dime, that's okay. It was saved money. I had just made money in the year or two before at the Roxy, so now I had this money, and I made my contract. And as I did with the Roxy, I made the date like 6 months ahead because, I have no idea yet. I know what I wanted to do. I know I was doing it. I didn't know how I was going to fill the venue. I just know that this was a dream now that I was taking action on. The first thing to do was to sign a contract with the Hollywood Palladium and write him a check for $5,500. So I wrote him a full check up front for the full price of the rental. So now from that point, now it was only maybe a few weeks later, the guy from the Hollywood Palladium, he calls me, he says, Cliff, Paramount Pictures just called me. They're doing the re-release of Grease, and their anniversary for Grease is on that date. So they want the venue for that date. And I told them, I already have a contract with you. And they told me they would pay you $5,500 for you to change your date. Free money, $5,500 back to me that I had paid the rent. In other words, I would be renting now for free. And now, I don't know why I said this. I didn't take a moment to think about this. It was totally reflexive. I said, listen, I've printed tickets and I've paid for promotion and marketing of this show already, so I'm out of pocket money promoting that date. So to change my date, I would need $9,000. And, I'm saying this with a straight face. I don't even know where that figure came from. I had spent zero promoting the show. It was 6 months down the road. So he said to me, well, I'm kind of a whore in this deal. And I said, listen, if they pay me the $9,000, I'm sure I'm going to have a brokerage fee for you. And he said, I know what to do. I'll call you back. So now in the meantime, I'm calling my friends that were in the entertainment industry, and I'm calling around, and I'm telling them the story, and they're all, why did you say Why didn't you just take the $5,500? Where did this $9,000 come from? I don't know where it came from. It just came out of my mouth. I have no reason to. Oh, you should have just took the $5,500. Because now I'm second guessing myself after the phone call. And so the next day comes back, and the guy from the Palladium calls me, and he said they're going to pay you the $9,000. He said write up an invoice to Paramount Pictures, and he gave me the fax number and faxed it to this number, and so I did that. I'm writing up an invoice to Paramount Pictures from my little comedy company for $9,000 for the change of venue. So then I thought it was the right thing to do. I got together $500 and I put it in an envelope. And I met the guy at the Palladium. I met him for lunch, and I pushed the envelope to him and said, "There's a brokerage fee. I appreciate you brokering the deal." And he said, "Well, has Paramount paid you your money yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't gotten the check yet." He said, "Well, I don't trust the studios, so until they pay you, I'm not going to take your envelope. But when they pay you, then I will." I said, "Okay." And you know what? It did take quite a while. I had to kind of bug them. You know, basically their answer at the headquarters of Paramount was, "You're on the pile. Your invoices, and we'll get to it when we get to it." That's how it was. It was a little bit frustrating because weeks and weeks went by. And then sure enough, the check came through, paid to the order of Cliff Yates, $9,000, Paramount Studios, letterhead check. And so if you're watching or listening, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show a picture of that check. And I want to show pictures of the Hollywood Palladium on that day. So if you can imagine, now I had to hustle. And I had Mike Marino, who I recently met just a couple years. I have been now working with him for a couple years. It's hard to believe now that I actually had him open for me. And here he is now. He's just one of the greatest headliners in the country today, and one of my best friends, Mike Marino, and he helped me with the show. And I had to have two other young ladies in the show, or I chose to have them in the show because, I needed the show to go at least 90 minutes. So I don't know how we ended up having Margaret Cho as the MC, but she MC'd the show. And then I had my two ladies, and then Mike Marino, and then I did like 25 minutes. And so, but you can imagine, so now I had to fill this place. I contacted a publicist about getting people into the show. She said, "Listen, you're a no-name. I don't even want to take your money. You can't fill the Palladium. And to fill, there's a big balcony, and to film the bottom, you need about 1,000 people." So I sold quite a few tickets. I want to say probably around 300-400, just based on my previous show at the Roxy, and now I'm at the Hollywood Palladium. People are, "Hey, I want to go to the Palladium." So those 300 or 400 sold very easily. And then Mike Marino, who was teaching comedy traffic school at the time, says, "Hey, I just did a big comedy traffic school to a bunch of Hell's Angels. Would it be okay if I invited the Hell's Angels to the show?" Because we had decided at that point, after selling 300-400 tickets, we were going to, what they call paper the show. In other words, we're going to complimentary comp these tickets, give these tickets out just to fill the house. We need another 500, 600 people. So I said, sure. So he invited these Hell's Angels, and they came, and there must have been 150 of them. And and then between Mike Marino's other fans, so he brought in another 200 people. And then between the other two ladies in the show, and we had a lot of industry. Although, I didn't ever got any work out of this show, but people from The Tonight Show came to the show, and because we had that money, the $9,000 ahead of time, I was able to put a full-page ad in Daily Variety. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a picture of that Daily Variety ad. I'm going to put that picture of that up. That was a full-page ad that cost about $1,200. And then I did another quarter-page ad with just me and Mike Marino, and I'll put that up on the screen, too, if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on one of the podcast platforms, go over to YouTube and check out this episode and look at some of the pictures of the Hollywood Palladium and these full pages, these ads that I put in the Daily Variety. And so through there, we had call this number for complimentary tickets for all industry comps. And because, all of the entertainment industry gets daily variety, or they did at the time. So we had a lot of industry come. When I say industry, that called and said they were industry, probably 50. So, about 3 or 4 tables worth. And we had tables of 10. And so it all came together. And it was, I went to my Andy and Angela, now Poland, they have the same name because they're married. But at the time, they were at Loyola Marymount, and they were doing student films. And I was in one of their student films. And so I hired them to produce the show and film it and do the audio. I didn't get a great video out of the master, not to my liking as I go forward 25, 30 years, but the show went, we filled it up. We filled it. Matter of fact, that publicist came to the show and said, "You did it. You filled the Palladium. You did it." And I thought maybe we'd get some work out of there. I mean, the Tonight Show was there. And I never ended up being on the Tonight Show. That was one of my dreams and goals in my head. Didn't happen. So when I say follow your dreams, I mean, a lot of them are going to come true. But believe me, a lot of mine did not come true. But you have to throw them out there. It's like, it comes from the Bible, sowing and reaping. You just don't put one seed in the ground. You cast your seeds out. Some are obviously going to fall on stone. Some the birds are going to get. Some are going to fall on soil that's not deep enough to allow any roots. But some are going to fulfill their growth, and they are going to give you a harvest that's 10 times what you planted. Sowing and reaping, it's part of the game. It's part of life. It's part of success. It's part of living a full life. And I'll tell you what, that dream came. So if you can imagine, my mom and dad flew out. And I'll put some pictures up of my mom and dad and my cousin and my wife were on stage. And so if you can imagine, my cousin flew out, and I had 2 other friends from upstate New York fly out. And I had my mom and dad who flew out. So all the people that, out of love were worried about me following my dreams, now they get to enjoy these moments. They're coming out, now they're at the Hollywood Palladium, right? And they're watching me perform stand-up in one of the biggest venues in, if not Hollywood, the world. And so the dream came true, that I got to perform at the Hollywood Palladium in 1998, 16 years after I had watched in upstate New York that DVD of Live on the Sunset Strip with Richard Pryor. So I'm putting some pictures up of the show now that I took in 1998, if you're watching on YouTube. And so that's the dream. The dream. I dreamed it. Paramount Pictures paid me $9,000 to fulfill it. And those are things that happen you could never anticipate. I could never anticipate. My wildest dream was to be able to rent the Palladium, get people to come and film it, and to fulfill my dream of performing there. Now, the gift of having Paramount Pictures want that date and pay me $9,000 to change my date, that's a gift that just comes later on. But you're going to get those gifts that are going to come to you. You can't anticipate them. So go forward boldly in your dreams. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. I never regretted making that big move, even though at the time, driving away with my friends in the rearview mirror, tears streaming down my face. What did I just do with my life? Never regretted all the things that happened. A great career with the LA County Sheriff's Department. Now I want to encourage you to follow your dreams. That's the purpose of this podcast. Encouragement for you. Follow your dreams. Go forward. Go after them. It may lead you somewhere else, but the point is, make the move. Take an initial action. Write it down. Get a vision board. Put some pictures up of your dream. Start making some calls and letters and just find out, what do I need to do to fulfill this? Am I willing to pay that price? Start paying that price. Take the initial steps that you need to do. And I want to encourage you to do it. Hey, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey, and if you're listening on a podcast platform, subscribe to the podcast, because that tells the computer people are interested, and they'll show it to more people. And isn't that the purpose? We want to encourage as many people as we can. Life is great. I love you. Thanks for listening, everybody.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.